Good morning, my dear students. Good morning, one and all. So, welcome back to our fourth lecture of the specialized course, International Trade and Foreign Direct Investment (FDI). And it's easy to think that trade is just about business interest in each country, but global trade is much more. There's a convergence and at times a conflict of the interest of the different stakeholders, from businesses to governments to local citizens. In recent years, advancements in technology, renewed enthusiasm for entrepreneurship, and a global sentiment that favors a free trade have further connected people, businesses, and markets. All flatteners that are helping expand global trade and investment level. An essential part of international business is understanding the history of international trade and what motivates country to encourage or discourage trade within their borders. Here we are look at the evolution of international trade theory over a modern time, and this lecture will provide an introduction to the concept and the role of a foreign direct investment, which can take many forms of incentives, regulations, and policies. And companies react to these business incentives and regulations as they evaluate which countries to do business and in which to invest, and the governments often encourage foreign investments in their own country or in another country by providing loans and incentives to businesses in their home country as well as businesses in the recipient country in order to pave the way for investment and trade in the country. Okay, next we need to discuss about what is international trade. We need to understand about first number one is international trade theories are simply different theories to explain international trade. And a trade is the concept of exchanging goods and services between the two people or entities. So international trade is then the concept of this exchange between people or entities in two different type of countries. And people or entities trade because they believe that they benefit from the exchange and they may need or want the goods or services. While at the surface this may many sound very simple, there is a great deal of theory, policy, and business strategy that constitutes international trade. So in this session, we need to explore about the factors and international trade and how business and governments use these factors to their respective benefits to promote their interests and understand the types of international investments. There are two main categories of international investment. Number one is portfolio investment and another one is foreign direct investment. Portfolio investment refers to the investment in a company's stocks, bonds, or assets, but not for the purpose of controlling or directing the firm's operations or management. Typically, investors in this category are looking for financial or return as well as diversifying investment risk through multiple markets. Because the foreign direct investment (FDI) refers to an investment in our foreign assets with the intent to control and manage them. Companies can make an FDI in several ways, including purchasing the assets of a foreign company, investing in the company or in new property, plants, or equipment, or participating in a joint venture with a foreign company, which typically involves an investment of capital or know-how. FDI is primarily a long-term strategy because companies usually expect to benefit through access to local markets and resources, often in exchange for expertise, technical know-how, and capital. A country's FDI can be both inward and outward because, as the term would suggest, inward FDI refers to investment coming into the country, and outward FDI are investment made by companies from the country that into or foreign companies in other countries. The difference between inward and outward is called the net FDI inflow, which can be either positive or negative level. And governments want to be able to control and regulate the flow of FDI so that local political and economic concerns are addressed, and global businesses are most interested in using FDI to benefit their companies. As a result, these two players, governments and companies, can at times be at odds. It's important to understand why companies use FDI as a business strategy and how governments regulate and manage the FDI process. So what are the process and factors that influence a company's decisions to invest? Let's look at why and how companies choose to invest in foreign markets. Simply purchasing goods and services or deciding to invest in the local market depends on a business needs and overall strategy. So direct investment in a country occurs when a company chooses to set up facilities to produce or market their products, or seeks to partner with, invest in, or purchase a local company for control and access to the local market, production, or resources. Many consideration influences its decision. Number one is cost. it is cheaper to produce in the local market than elsewhere. Second one is logistics, as it's cheaper to produce locally if the transportation costs are significant. And third one is market, has the company identified a significant local market. And fourth one is natural resources, is the company interested in obtaining access to local resources or commodities. And fifth one is know-how, does the company want access to local technology or business process knowledge. And next one is customer and competitors, does the company's clients or competitors operate. And next one is policy, or their local incentives, cash and non-cash levels for investing in one country versus another. And next one is ease, is it relatively straightforward to invest and or set up operations in the country, or is there another country in which setup might be easier. And next one is culture, is the workforce or labor pool already skilled for the company's needs, or will extensive training will be required. And next one is impact, how will this investment impact the company's revenue and the profitability. And next one is expatriations of funds, can the company easily take profits out of the country, or are there local restrictions. And next one is exit, can the company easily and orderly exist from a local investment, or are local laws and regulations cumbersome and expensive. These are just a few of the many factors that might influence a company's decisions, as well as keep in mind that a company doesn't need to sell in the local market in order to deem it a good option for direct investment. For example, companies who set up manufacturing facilities in low-cost countries but export the products to other markets. There are two forms of FDI, horizontal and vertical level. Because horizontal FDI occurs when a company is trying to open up a new market, a retailer, for example, that builds a store in a new country to sell to the local market. And vertical FDI is when a company invests internationally to provide input into core operations, usually in its home country. A firm may invest in production facilities in another country. When a firm brings the goods and components back to its home country, that is acting as a supplier. This is referred to as backward vertical FDI, and when a firm sells the goods into the local or regional market, that is acting as a distributor. This is termed forward vertical FDI. The largest global companies often engage in both backward and forward vertical FDI depending on their industry. And many firms engage in backward vertical FDI, the auto, oil, and infrastructure, which includes industries related to enhancing the infrastructure of a country, that is energy, communications, and transportation level. And industries are good examples of this, and firms from these industries invest in production or plant facilities in a country in order to supply raw materials, parts, or finished products to their home country. In recent years, these same industries have also started to provide forward FDI by supplying raw materials, parts, finished products to newly emerging local or regional markets level. There are different kinds of FDI, because two of which, number one is greenfield and brownfield, are increasingly applicable to global firms. Greenfield FDIs occur when multinational corporations enter into developing countries to build new factories or stores. These new facilities are built from scratch, usually in an area where no previous facilities existed. The name originates from the idea of building a facility on just farmland or forested area. In addition to building a new facilities that best meet their needs, the firms as well as also create new long-term jobs in the foreign country by hiring new employees. And countries often offer prospective companies tax breaks and subsidies and other incentives to set up a greenfield investments level. And a brownfield FDI is when a company or government entity purchases or leases existing production facilities to launch a new production activity. Because one application of this strategy is where a commercial site used for an unclean business purpose, such as a steel mill or oil refinery, is cleaned up and used for a less purpose, such as commercial office space or a residential area. So brownfield investment is usually less expensive and can be implemented faster. However, a company may have to deal with many challenges, including existing employees, outdated equipment, entrenched process, and cultural differences. So you should note that the terms greenfield and brownfield are not exclusive to FDI. You may hear them in various business contexts. In general, greenfield refers to starting from the beginning, and brownfield refers to modifying or upgrading existing plants or projects. And why and how governments encourage FDI? Because the many governments encourage FDI in their countries as a way to create jobs, expand local and technical knowledge, and increase their overall economical standards. Ian Bremmer, according to the end of the free market, who wins the war between states and corporations in the year of 2010 New York portfolio. So countries like Hong Kong and Singapore long ago realized that both global trade and the FTA would help them grow exponentially and improve the standard of living of their citizens. So as a result, Hong Kong, before its return to China, was one of the easiest places to set up a new company, and guidelines were clearly available and business could set up a new office within a days. And similarly, Singapore, while discriminatory on the size and the type of business offered foreign companies, is a clear and streamlined process for setting up a new company. In contrast, for decades, many other countries in Asia, example India, China, Pakistan, and Philippines and Indonesia, restricted or controlled FDI in their countries by requiring extensive paperwork and bureaucratic approvals, as well as local partners for any new foreign business levels. These policies created disincentives for many global companies, because by the 1990s and earlier for China, many of the countries in Asia had caught the global trade bug and were actively trying to modify their policies to encourage more FDI. Some were more successful than others because often as a result of internal political issues and pressures rather than from many repercussions of global trade. So how governments discourage or restrict FDI? Because in most instances, governments seek to limit or control foreign direct investments to protect local industries and keywords, some of the key resources, oil, minerals, etc. So preserve the national and local culture, protect the segments of their domestic population, maintain political and economical independence, and manage or control economic growth. A government uses various politics and policies and rules, as well as number one is ownership restrictions. Host governments can specify ownership restrictions if they want to keep the control of local markets or industries in their citizens' hands. Some countries such as Malaysia go even further and encourage that ownership have be maintained by a person of Malay origin and known locally as Bumiputra. Although the country's foreign investment community guidelines are being relaxed, and most foreign businesses understand that having a Bumiputra partner will improve their chances of obtaining favorable contracts in Malaysia. And next one is tax rates and sanctions. A company's home government usually imposes these restrictions in an effort to persuade company to invest in the domestic market rather than a foreign one. And how government encourages FDI? Because governments seek to promote FDI when they are eager to expand their domestic economy and attract new technologies, business know-how, and capital to their country. In these instances, many governments still try to manage and control the type, quantity, and even the nationality of the FDI to achieve their domestic economic, political, and social goals. And we need to discuss about the financial incentives. Host countries offer businesses a combination of tax incentives and loans to invest, because home country governments may also offer a combination of insurance, loans, and tax breaks in an effort to promote their companies' overseas investments. The opening case on China in Africa illustrated this type of incentives. Second one is infrastructure. Host governments improve or enhance the local infrastructure in energy, transportation, and communications to encourage the specific industries to invest, because this also serves to improve the local conditions for domestic firms. And next one is administrative process and regulatory environment. Host country governments streamline the process of establishing offices or production in their countries. By reducing bureaucracy and regulatory environment, these countries appear more attractive to foreign firms. Next one is invest in education. Countries seek to improve their workforce through education and job training. An educated and skilled workforce is an important investment criterion for many global type of business. And next one is political, economical, and legal stability. And host country governments seeks to reassure businesses that the local operating conditions are stable, transparent, that is, policies are clearly stated and in the public domain and unlikely to change. Okay, my dear students, I hope you have enjoyed this session now, and thank you once again. Thank you all.